with the price of everything going up, right, from fuel to food, the war in Ukraine, rising global inflation, there are any number of unforeseen variables that have forced your hand, I imagine.
Yes, indeed. You know, Bongani, governance is always a careful balance between multiple policy objectives. And as you say, COVID started massive disruptions in global supply chains, and the conflict in Ukraine has just aggravated that. We've seen food inflation spiking. The June figures show that food prices went up by 8.6%. And under those circumstances, we need to ensure that the conduct of our trade policy reaches that key spot where you're able to balance carefully these multiple objectives. So we still have in place duties on poultry that's imported, and we will be vigorously enforcing those. But there was an anti-dumping duty that was put on a number of countries, the most significant of which was Brazil, some 6 months ago by the commission, the regulator that's responsible for this. And at the end of 6 months, we needed to make a decision whether to impose that for a longer period or indeed to decline it. And the decision we took was somewhere in between the two, to take the view that an anti-dumping duty is warranted, but to suspend its implementation date so that we can get to a point where food price increases are less sharp, less damaging than what it is now before we implement the anti-dumping duty.
You were saying just a few months ago that this kind of decision would be an extreme move.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's one of those things. What we did about 2 years ago, we raised the general duties, and the general duties on poultry, that increase is being retained. What we've done now is we've investigated, in addition to that increase in general duties, whether the pricing policies of producers from a number of countries, in fact, contravene our regulations on anti-dumping. And we're convinced that the evidence show that there is definitely dumping. We have to now balance that dumping against the impact on consumers if there is if the anti-dumping duty was to continue and we see this level of price rises. So in reality, what one needs to do in the conduct of policy is weigh up the timing of these things, the balance between various objectives. And in this particular case, Bongani, we took the view that it's warranted to maintain the general duties on poultry, but it would not be appropriate at this point to confirm for the next few years the anti-dumping duty starting immediately.
Minister, the industry, of course, are saying this is a betrayal. They're saying you're going against your own master plan, and they've made expansion plans based on your commitments, and now they're saying you're turning your back again against them.
I always understand the views of industry to be to strongly fight their corner, and they're doing that, and it's understandable. Government has to take a broader view. And in the poultry master plan, what we specifically committed to as an immediate step was to address the general level of duties. And perhaps, Bongani, let me just take one step back. 2 years ago, when the poultry master plan was concluded in early 2020, we had a limited duty on poultry. This is the general duty on poultry.
Yep.
We had, in addition to that, a surge of imports from a number of countries, and we had concerns about dumping of poultry. The commitment that we made and that we held to is in February 2020, we increased the general duty on poultry. That was a commitment in the master plan. In addition to that, we committed we would investigate the anti-dumping practices, and where warranted, we would take action. We did that. We've investigated those. We found that there is evidence of anti-dumping from some countries, and I've taken the decision that, in fact, I will accept the recommendation of IPAC. The timing of that permanent anti-dumping duties as opposed to the temporary duties is postponed. It's postponed for a period of 1 year. That year can be shortened, or that period can be shortened if circumstances warrant it. In other words, when we see that food prices are not spiking as much. And that's really the balanced approach that we've taken.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.